Hello everyone, it's Kelly here. So I want to talk about Brusho paints. I had been doing some really fun abstracts in my Watercolor Affinity 2 course, and I decided to try a similar look because it's July for that firework of color using some Brusho paint. So this is my original painting that I did with watercolor. And as you can see, you can get some really pretty bursts of color just with plain old watercolor. Now this one was done with Brusho. I did put it down and then I spritzed it again and reactivated it. So you can see I've got a little bit more texture in here. And today I'm going to share this one with you. And if you're a Patreon, you're going to get the full access, ad-free, and the full tutorial. So quick shout out to all my Patreons. Thank you again so much for all of your support. So you want to make sure you wear gloves. I didn't wear gloves with mine. I have Brusho on my fingers. It is a staining type of paint and it's a watercolor ink actually. And what they do is I don't know if they dry it or what, but it's in this powdery form. So it's like a crystal form. And it is non-toxic, but I would make sure it does say on here anything for kids under the age of 36 months not to play with it. I think it's more because you probably could inhale it. It comes in lots of different colors. I got this little set here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I actually have 6 colors. I don't know. I think orange was the other one. I don't have it in here. But I want to share with you what fun things you can do with this stuff. So you can either use your fingers, you can sprinkle it, you can use a brush, you can spritz water on it and then drop it on. There's lots of different ways that you can apply this, but let me just say this. It is one of those things that is quite loose. It does its own thing. It goes where it wants to go, and sometimes it's a little bit more hard to control. But that is the beauty of Brusho. It's kind of like it creates itself on the paper. So I'm going to start with a little bit of water on this one. You know, you can add a brush, a smaller brush. You can skip some areas if you want to, or you can just douse it. You can sprinkle it on beforehand and spritz it with the water. But I am going to just sprinkle a little bit on here just to test out some of the colors. I'm going to start with some yellow, and I like to use my brush. If I can keep my hands clean, I will. But you can see I made a big dollop on here. So it's, again, harder to control, especially if you're using a brush. What a lot of people do is they'll pop a little pinhole in the top of it, and that way they can use it as like a little sprinkling, and then put a tack in the top of it so it closes it. But I just like to sprinkle it on here. I think this is more fun. So for this piece, I just added some water to it, and I started with a little bit of yellow here. I added some red to it, and then some purple. I'm just trying all these different colors and seeing what it's going to do. And the kit that I had actually came with this little squirt bottle with it, which I use a squirt bottle for everything with watercolor. So it's a great little squirt bottle to have. And then so you just gonna spray that and let it kind of do its thing. Let the paints move where they want to go. And then just a little tipping and tilting sometimes can give you that nice flow if your paints are not really mixing together really well. I do like to leave white space on mine, but spritzing it if you get too thick of areas is a really good thing to do because you don't want those clumps to be on your painting when they dry. And then you can always spritz a little bit more on there. If you feel like you want a little bit more in certain areas, add more. And you can see where I'm adding some here. Again, tapping a little extra. You can see where it didn't move a whole lot. So I'm going to squirt that again just to get that moving. You can kind of wait it out a little bit if you want just to see what it's going to do first. But it's just such a fun medium, especially when you're working with more of an abstract background. Great for backgrounds. You could always take this and throw some cling wrap over the top of it and wait for it to dry and see what kind of patterns that you get on there. But it's always just a nice surprise. You just never know what you're going to get. So you can add more, sprinkle more. This one had a nice cool little swirl to it. I don't know how I did that. I think it just kind of happened. And then I dried it, and this, again, makes a great background. Now it's like trying to figure out what you want to do on here. So I was kind of back and forth. Do I want to do a flower, kind of a rose? I see a purple rose in there with that big rosy shape on the front, but it's also kind of a cool little swirly atmospheric look to it too. So I ended up going with trees, and you can do this with white or black wash. You can then take a Sharpie and just use it very fine little lines. If you want to get some little tree branches in there, you can do that. So it's just really, really fun. You just never know what you're going to create when you're looking at something like this. So it's so much a abstract piece. It's great for like a 15-minute warm up. It's great for just loosening up if you're not sure what you want to create for the day. Just let your imagination run wild and have fun with it. And I did want to mention I'm using Strathmore watercolor cards for this. Again, very inexpensive. You can cut them in half. You can use them as a 5x7 and just tape around them so you get a nice little frame with that. So I usually try to measure it out before I put my mat on it or when I tape it. So that way I make sure that I've got everything in my mat area. And this is just a standard 8x10 mat. Look at that swirl in there. Isn't that cool? The mats are from Golden State Art, and they have all different sizes that you can get for standard sizes, and they're really inexpensive, especially if you buy them in bulk. So I'll put a link in the description box below for you for all the supplies I'm using, the Brusho, the mats, and paper, all that good stuff in there. So I love this little red spot here. I didn't want to cover most of that up, so I kept the trees fairly short. I didn't want to mess up this bright yellow and this purple in here. So if I were to make a bigger tree, probably right there in front of the red if I wanted to kind of switch it up a little bit, but I didn't want to cover up this little area here either. So super fun. I would love to see yours. If you try it, go ahead and tag me on Instagram. And thanks again for your support. And of course, if you like these videos, please don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and join me for the next one.